Mike Pulaski, who played, and I remember it well, for the best Cal team, a team that almost beat the national champions Washington in Berkeley. He is the Cal Bears TV analyst. He was a great quarterback for them, and he is now joining us live. Mike, thank you. All right, so you've seen Jared Goff play a lot more than I have, although I saw him a half dozen times. What is your favorite thing about Jared Goff, Mike?
Wow. I mean, you start with one favorite thing. I think in terms of personality, it's his toughness, because the kid took a beating over the last 3 years in that Bear Raid offense where they have that run-pass option. And so many times when he's pulling the ball and throwing it, he has zero pass protection. And so his toughness, I like. He is a great team guy. And any of his teammates you talk to will tell you he is a leader. He's a team guy all the way. Very humble for as talented as he is. And in terms of physical skills, he has an arm that is out of this world. I mean, it is the likes of a John Elway, Jeff George, Brett Favre type of arm.
Now, people are saying, and I think physically he looks a little like Matt Ryan. He's a little slender. Should we be concerned that he's a skinny kid and he may take a beating the first couple years in the NFL?
Anybody who says that didn't watch his last 3 years at Cal, because there's no way he gets hit any more than he did at Cal at the next level. And he will put on weight. I think by the time that Jared's done playing, he'll probably be a 250-pound guy. You know, his dad is a good-sized guy. His mom is athletic build. So I think genetically he's going to be in that 240, 250-pound range by the time he's done. But he can handle a beating. He's taken a beating at Cal, and only one serious injury over the course of 3 years in spite of the pounding.
Again, I'm a Pac-12 guy. I grew up out west. I moved here, so I spent a lot of this football season watching quarterback play, and I felt he was very polished. Tell people, I mean, he threw the ball in losses. You know, there were times he threw 51 times, 48 times. I mean, they clearly relied on him. What type of offense, Mike, did he play in?
Well, the Bear Raid is that run-pass option, the read option game that you see. Mike Leach originated down at Texas Tech. He's running up to Washington State. Started it with Hal Mummy. And so it's just this wide-open offense that really tries to create space and then get the ball to receivers in space. And so as a quarterback in that system, you have to have great instinctive reads, meaning that things aren't going to be as clean as if you go through a progression, 1, 2, 3, here's where I go with it. You have to be able to read defenders and find out where they give you space. And so you're working different concepts against the defenders. And instinctively, because you don't have that protection, you have to have great anticipation. You have to make throws on time, and they have to be accurate. And he was very good at that. He was able to throw accurately from any position. I liken his ability to throw off balance to Kurt Warner, who you could see Kurt Warner throw from almost any position. Jared Goff can do that, but he's got a bigger arm than Kurt had.
You play the National Football League, I think XFL, I remember, Arena League as well, Mike Pulaski. We have video here. There's the story Gridiron Outdoor, a show you want to show this now? Do you want to show this? Greg, you want to show this? Oh, here's the video right now. So 2 guys from Berkeley go duck hunting, is from what I can tell. Tell me about Jared Goff, his personality, because I'm watching the video here. Tell me about his personality.
Well, we're out hunting pigs, actually, in California. So there's a big pig problem in California. We took Jared out for his very first hunt along with his dad. And it's awesome getting quarterbacks together because you always have that competitive nature. Everything's about competition, whether it be on the hunt or shooting archery for the first time. We taught Jared how to shoot with the Ruger American rifle, and really his first range experience with classic training. And so he was competing with his dad, you know, even though it was his time doing this with classic training on the Ruger, he's out there and he's competing with his dad. And so that competition is a huge part of successful quarterbacks. And that's what he was like on the hunt. At the same time, great learner. He listened to everything, hung on every word, really absorbed what I was teaching him. And both of those assets are going to be huge for any quarterback.
This is great. Mike Pulaski. His dad played Major League Baseball. What kind of dad, personality-wise, what should we expect with Jared Goff? You said he's a good learner. Is his dad tough on him? He's a former big leaguer.
Yeah, his dad is the classic athlete dad. You know, he always competes with his son. We were talking about it during the show, and actually anybody who watches the show or anybody who wants to check it out, they can go to our social media sites for Gridiron Outdoors. There's a lot of clips up there. But he talks about the competition that he established with his son, and that he never gave him an inch and never said, "Hey, I'm going to let him win." He coached him, but he drove him. And Jared said he thought he was harder on him, like any kid will be, right? Any kid thinks their dad's harder on them. But in the end, I think all that paid off in terms of Jared's progression and his toughness, his ability to handle that 1-11 season that he had as a freshman, and then come back and flourish as a sophomore, and then really kind of control the game as a junior.
I'm going to say something, and it's going to sound ridiculous, but I watched Jared Goff during the John Gruden quarterback camp, and you know who he reminded me of? He reminded me of Tom Brady. He really did. He was very humble. Didn't give anything away like Brady. Really good-looking kid, very confident. But I found him to be Tom Brady. He was disciplined enough with Gruden that he would laugh at the jokes. He knew what he was talking about, but he was pretty succinct. He wasn't going to give a ton of his personality away. So I don't know. I defend the pick. I have no problem with it. I think he carried a program. Mike Pulaski does the Bears games. And it's kind of exciting. I hope it works out for him. I really appreciate you coming on the show. You've been great today, Mike.
No problem. Absolutely been great. Anytime you want me on, we get guys on the whole time. We have Hostetler on this year. We had Big Ben on this year. So we got guys coming out on Gridiron Outdoors all the time. And if anybody, by the way, wants to get any of that camo that he's wearing, Go Wild Camo is a major sponsor for us. So feel free to check it out.
Mike Pulaski. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thanks, Colin. Take care.
Hello, and welcome to LA Rams Central. I have been waiting for so long to do this particular show. I can't even contain my excitement. First, I showed that video because I want everybody watching to understand the fact that the National Football League has a severe health problem. Everyone in the NFL Network, everyone on ESPN, every analyst, every play-by-play guy, anybody that evaluates the National Football League has a severe case of amnesia. It's apparently rampant. Just last year, Jared Goff was being compared to a young Tom Brady, as you saw in that video. Matt Ryan. He was being defended. The pick was being defended. He plays in 7 games, and because he doesn't throw for 3,952 yards, 178 touchdowns, with a 100% completion percentage, and goes 7-0 as the Rams starter, he's a bust. I'm throwing numbers out there because they're just like they're throwing their mind or their ideas out there. You need to understand as a fan base how little you need to take the advice or the information from a Rich Eisen, from a Terrell Davis, from a LaDainian Tomlinson, from a Willie McGinnis. More importantly, when you're watching the games on TV, whatever Troy Aikman says, assume the opposite. Troy Aikman is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He went on record saying, "I don't think the kid has it. He struggled so bad his rookie year." He went on record saying that. Really, you don't think the kid has it because of his rookie year performance? I'm going to read you some numbers for a minute. This is an NFL Hall of Fame quarterback. I'll give it away on who it is in a moment. But I want everyone to understand this is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's in the Hall of Fame, and he's widely considered to be one of the most accurate quarterbacks of all time. His rookie year, he played in 11 games. He didn't win a single one. He went 0-11. He had 293 attempts and only 155 completions for a total, or for a 52.9% completion percentage. He threw for 1,749 yards, threw 9 touchdowns, but threw 11 interceptions. And those 11 interceptions were bad ones. I remember the one that he threw against the Rams that particular year. I remember thinking, thank God this guy's quarterback, because that was horrible. It was right to our guy. He was sacked 19 times. Now, Jared Goff. His rookie year, 0-7. 205 attempts, 112 completions. Had a 54.6% completion percentage. Better than that of the Hall of Famer in his rookie year. He threw for 1,089 yards, mainly because he was in an offense that was dinosauric by nature. He had 5 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He only threw 7 picks. It's 1 per game, much like the Hall of Fame quarterback I just read to you, who threw 11 picks in 11 games. But here's the kicker. He was sacked 26 times. He was sacked 7 more times in 5 fewer games. That Hall of Famer that I just read you the rookie year statistics for was Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman, his rookie year. Oh, but I don't know if the kid has it. He just didn't look good his rookie year. You looked any better? You were garbage. Jared Goff outperformed you in completion percentage. He outperformed you in touchdown to interception ratio in fewer games. Actually tied, sorry. He tied you in interception to touchdown ratio, and he did it in fewer games. And if you break down his completion percentage, the fact that he was sacked 7 more times in 5 fewer games blows me away. He outperformed Troy Aikman. But Troy Aikman, I don't know if Goff has it. If I hear one more person talk about Jared Goff being a bust, I'm going to lose my mind. Joe Montana's rookie year, he threw 1 pass off of a fake field goal. It was an out pattern that the receiver had to come back and catch short of the first down sticks. These a-holes today would turn around and say, oh, Joe Montana doesn't have the arm strength or the ability to throw an out pattern. I don't think this guy can cut it in the National Football League because they didn't like 1 pass. Meanwhile, I have to hear analyst after analyst after analyst telling me why Colin Kaepernick should be in the NFL. Why Tim Tebow shouldn't have been in the NFL. I'm sorry. I'll take Tebow over Colin Kaepernick all day, every day. And don't give me the garbage of a Super Bowl. Don't give me the garbage that Colin Kaepernick led the 49ers to a Super Bowl. Tim Tebow did not have that kind of tight end, did not have those kinds of wide receivers, did not have that kind of defense, and did not have that kind of head coach when he was in Denver. Or when he went to New York. And not even I'm dumb enough to say that he should have started in New England when you have Tom Brady. I don't want to hear it. Tim Tebow is infinitely better than Colin Kaepernick ever was. The man won 9 games on his own. Colin Kaepernick is yet to win 1 game on his own. Oh, by the way, Tebow also didn't have a running back, while the 49ers had Frank Gore. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Tim Tebow's a good quarterback. I look at him and I go, he probably should be in the league, yes. There are not 96 quarterbacks better than him. You'd be hard-pressed to find 64 quarterbacks that are better than him. But you probably could find 30 to 33, depending on what you're looking for. But Colin Kaepernick's garbage. Did you watch the San Francisco-Chicago Bear game? He was horrendous. I don't care that he took a knee. I do, because I have family going back to World War II, sorry. I've got friends currently that are in the military, and I understand the flag means a little bit more than your social experiment that you want to put on a football field. But at the same time, if that's what you choose to do, if I was a teammate of Colin Kaepernick, I wouldn't have said nothing. You be you, bro. I'll be me. I'll stand. You kneel. You're fighting your issues. That's you, dude. That's cool. You want my personal opinion? I'll tell you, I don't think that the police are as brutal as we make them out to be. Are there bad cops? Sure. And they should absolutely be arrested and thrown in jail. But you can't say they're bad cops in every force all over the country and then say that, you don't have a problem with the police, you just have a problem with the brutality, but then you wear socks that have pigs dressed up like cops on them, and you're wearing a friggin' shirt of one of the most brutal dictators that ever lived. And you're going to turn around and lecture me on social issues. I don't think so. That has nothing to do with Colin Kaepernick's ability on the field. Against the Chicago Bears, he couldn't throw an out route, he couldn't throw a deep in, he couldn't throw a deep curl, and he couldn't hit the post. And when he did run, he ran slower than he ever has before, indecisive, and didn't get the yardage that was needed. On one particular incident in the Bear game, he scrambled outside the pocket, ran 8 yards downfield, needed 1 more yard, and instead of making that extra effort, ducked out of bounds on creating 4th and 1. They had a punt. I understand you're trying to protect your body, but my God, it's the end of the game. You're trying to win a football game. You're driving up the field less than 7 minutes to go, and you're going to duck out of bounds on 4th and 1, or on an 8-yard gain, creating 4th and 1, forcing your team to punt. The man can't play. He shouldn't be in the league. We have enough mediocre to garbage quarterbacks in this league, Josh McCown. We don't need any more. And then we get somebody like Jared Goff, who's talented, who's incredible. And what I mean by talented, incredible is the sky is the limit at the moment for him. He may fall short. He may end up being a bust. But can we please pretend for 5 minutes like we don't know what we're talking about when you look at these numbers? 7 games, and he outperformed a Hall of Famer. I think we can hold off on the bust talk for 5 minutes. I'm so frustrated. I hear guys like Kirk Cousins who cannot get a contract to save their life despite performance after performance after performance after performance after performance after performance. And I keep going. You got a guy like Jared Goff who in the New Orleans game in the first half was step for step, stride for stride, pass for pass competing against Drew Brees. Then against the New England Patriots, we saw drop after drop after drop after drop after drop after drop after drop. Kenny Britt and Tavon Austin. Sack after sack after sack after sack after sack. And you walked away from that game going, my God. It was the New England Patriots defense 11-on-1 because Goff was the only one out there. So I'm a little sick and tired. I'm real sick and tired of the Jared Goff bust talk. And if you're a Ram fan out there and you're sick of it, comment on this episode. Make your voice heard. Make it heard. Because what I plan on doing is copying and pasting everyone's responses, going on ESPN.com and making that my opinion op page and submitting it. Because I'm done with it. Okay, I told you guys when I started this show, the reason I did this show is because there is no more talented people in broadcasting and analyzing NFL players. We are stuck with some of the most moronic, mundane, pathetic excuses of analysts who have the job solely because they wore a uniform and played the game. LaDainian Tomlinson knows about as much in his entire body as I do in the beard hair that falls off when I shave. My beard hair knows more than LaDainian Tomlinson does about the game of football. You don't have to be in the NFL to be an expert. And when you hear these guys talk and evaluate talent, you understand really quickly why they're not in coaching. And the sad part is, a lot of them are. A lot of them are in coaching. The NFL head coaches now is a fraternity. If you didn't play in the league, if you don't have a family member that coached or played in the league, you're not going to be in the league. It's a shame. There's a lot of good coaches out there that I would love to see get an opportunity. And I continue to say this, and I mean it. I'm not being braggadocious when I say this. You give me an NFL franchise, you give me 5 years, and I'll beat anybody on the floor or on the field that we play. Anybody. But I'm going to digress on that because that's just me being an arrogant, braggadocious punk. But certainly when it comes to watching the game, breaking it down, and analyzing it, I can be far more honest, upfront, and true in my evaluation than these morons who latch on to a guy, love them, no matter how poorly they play, and just leech off of their few successes and completely ignore their prior defeats. Peyton Manning, greatest regular season quarterback of all time. I wouldn't put him in my top 10 for all-time quarterbacks because I don't care what you do in the regular season. What do you do in the postseason? He'd be in my top 20. Same with Dan Marino. Dan Marino didn't perform in the postseason. I'd have guys in there like Otto Graham, Joe Montana, Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, even Steve Young, much as I hated him, Bart Starr. But I wouldn't have your Y.A. Tittles, your Peyton Mannings, your Fran Tarkentons. I might put in the 10 spot just because he did make it to several Super Bowls, 4 to be exact. And his postseason record was incredible when you look at it. But Peyton Manning, great regular season quarterback. Dan Marino, great regular season quarterback. There are other people I would rather have. Again, they're going to be in my top 15, top 20 for sure. I'm not an idiot. But I certainly wouldn't put him at 1. And yes, as much as I hate Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, he would be in my top 5. Right now, it's still Tom Brady at 2. He's not going to pass Joe Montana. The man threw no interceptions in a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. And he did it in a time when the offenses didn't have the luxury that they have today. And yet he made it to 4 Super Bowls. Would have made it to 5 if the 49ers had a brain and went ahead and started him in the 92 championship game over Steve Young. Instead, they started Young, and you get what you get. So I look at this whole situation with Jared Goff, and I just shake my head in complete and total disgust. I'm watching games from 1987. That's Jim Everett's second year in the league. Now, I think personally that Jim Everett, until Kurt Warner came around, was the best quarterback I had seen in my lifetime. I would certainly put Ferragamo even, 1-1, right? Those guys were 1A, 1B, and then there was everybody else until Kurt Warner came along, and obviously he passed them both. I got several games from 87. I've got the game against the Saints in Anaheim. I got the game against the Oilers in Houston week 1. I've got the game against the 49ers week 15. I got the game against Cleveland on Monday night, just before the Dickerson trade. He's horrible. He's horrible. He looks bad. He had a great 3-game rookie year start, and then he just looked awful the rest of his 86 rookie season and into 87, really into week 9 against St. Louis. He finally started to break through because everyone and their mother understood back then that a quarterback needs about 3 years to get used to the system, get comfortable. Plus, it was a new offense that he was running, new offensive coordinator in Ernie Zampese. Norv Turner took over in 87. We didn't have Norv Turner in 86. So there was a growing process there. And when you hear announcers, they say, as bad as Everett looks, we got to give him more time. This kid could be good. And this goes from everybody from John Madden and Pat Summerall down to the Z squad announcing games like I heard in the Anaheim game, the New Orleans Saints Ram game in Anaheim in 87. Clearly not the best crew. The week 9 game at St. Louis. How ironic is that? Which was I think it was like Ken Stabler and some random guy I never heard of that were announcing the game. And even they were saying the same thing. Because it was an understanding that it wasn't an analyst's job to promote and make a guy's career. Their job was to watch their career and critique it as the career progressed, but to give them time before they gave criticism. Now, a guy's drafted and you hear how he's going to be in the Hall of Fame and how this other guy was a wasted draft pick. And unless they fall in love with that guy who was a wasted draft pick, you never hear from him again. But if they love him, like Tom Brady or Russell Wilson, well, you'll never hear the end of it. Or Colin Kaepernick. You'll never hear the end of it. But a guy like Alex Smith, yeah, I said it. Alex Smith, Kirk Cousins, these guys are good quarterbacks. They're more than serviceable. They're top 20 quarterbacks in the league, maybe even higher. Bertie Kosar against the Cleveland Browns in 1987 was second in the NFL in passing. Today, he would be called Captain Checkdown. Because he threw to Ernest Biner, Ozzie Newsome, who back then only ran short routes. It's towards the end of his career. And Kevin Mack. Those were his top 3 receivers. Then you had Webster Slaughter and the outside guys. But you know what? He won. Just like Alex Smith. And when they got to the postseason, everyone stepped up, unlike the Kansas City Chiefs. But see, the NFL didn't, back then, they didn't favor one guy. They admired the fact that this young kid, 22, 23 years old, was leading the Browns to victories. Today, they don't like you. It doesn't matter what you do. They're going to shut you down and shut you out. Because they think they have so much power. They're kind of like the news media. They think they're the end-all, be-all in information. They haven't figured out that there's the internet. There's guys like me out there running shows. There's people on Twitter. There's other people out there like me. Probably better than me. There's some people like the young kid that's out there that started his show much later than mine, said that he used me as inspiration, which I find is a great compliment. But if you watch his show, he definitely does a better job than I do at bringing you comprehensive information on the LA area. And certainly, I've been impressed with his Ram shows from day one. And he does a lot more with the graphics and everything else, and it's more of a true YouTube show feeling. So there are people out there that do it even better than me. But the media hasn't figured out yet that there's these other outlets that don't like what they're saying. Because A, they don't believe them. And I wonder why. None of them can tell the truth. And that includes the news. But number 2, they're so biased in their opinion, it makes me want to throw up. The whole reason I did this show is because I was tired of hearing about the Seahawks, the Packers, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Steelers, and the Patriots. I was done. I thought I was watching the National Football League network. No. I was watching the Packers, 49ers, Seahawks, Steelers, Patriots, and Cowboys Associated Network. That's what I was watching. Andy Dalton. All I kept hearing was how bad Andy Dalton was. Really? Andy Dalton, the guy that's led the Bengals franchise from the absolute doldrums to playoff competitors every single year? Really? Is Andy Dalton capable of leading the Bengals to a Super Bowl? I don't know. At the moment, I'd have to agree and say probably not. But he certainly has, if he got a good team around him, could do a lot more than he's doing. But I would love to be in your position, Cincinnati, making the playoffs every year. Beats 4-12. But see, we don't look at those things. At least they didn't look at those things. They only focus on the same garbage. Okay, so I started a show. 800 subscribers later, and I'm pleased with that number. I'd love more, but you know what? I'm doing this because I love doing it, and hopefully you guys pick up on it. I'm not doing this because I'm trying to get famous. I'm not doing this because I'm trying to, in the end, if I were able to get my own show and do those things, obviously that would be awesome, but I wouldn't let anybody tell me how to do the show. I'd keep it on here. But I'm a teacher at a high school with 15 years of coaching experience and 12 years of teaching experience dealing with kids and understanding sometimes you have to look a little bit past the surface to see the talent in an individual. I see it in my students and I saw it in my players. I tell this story all the time to my kids. My first year at Chandler Prep, I had a kid, Braxton Barger, this big. Okay? Short little kid. Comes to practice one day, during summer, decides he wants to try and play, try out for the football team. Our quarterback, Paul Schubring, was like 6'6". At 16 years old, he was a big kid, maybe 6'4". Felt like he was 6'6". Had a cannon. Best quarterback I ever coached in 15 years of coaching high school football. And that's not even close to being an exaggeration. And he starts throwing passes, and this kid's catching everything. You look at me and go, Jiminy Christmas, this kid can catch everything, right? Kind of started ticking off Paul. So he starts throwing him lasers. Say, okay, catch this. Puts him on short routes and really guns it into him. Catches everything. Quickly became a favorite of everyone on the football team. His sophomore year, I start transitioning him, even though he's an undersized kid and he's going to get killed unless he can put on some bulk. I start transitioning him from a skill player who goes out on the field and gets screen passes and deep ends when linebackers are blitzing or when, positional, situational players to more of an intricate part of the offense. Eventually, I move him to running back because the kid not only can catch, but he has move upon move upon moves. His junior year, he gets injured. That crippled our season. But he was a phenomenal athlete. His senior year, he ends up leading the team in rushing, has over 1,000 yards rushing despite missing 2 games with an injury, and is voted one of the best players in our division. But if you were to see that kid his sophomore year, you'd go, no way. If you were to see that kid his freshman year especially, you'd say no way. But you see, it's beyond the surface. It's what do they show you? So I look for different things than what these idiots in the NFL look for. If I hear one more time, oh, he's got the stature to be quarterback, I don't care about stature. Joe Montana, Doug Flutie didn't have the stature for an NFL quarterback. They were phenomenal when they played. But, these idiots, they just keep spinning their wheels, telling us we're supposed to like who we're supposed to like, and we're not supposed to like who we're not supposed to like. Well, I got news for you, NFL. We don't listen. We like guys for certain reasons. Maybe it's that they give that second and third effort when the game is over. Maybe they went to a college that we happen to like, and we followed them through college. Or maybe we see the talent you're incapable of seeing. Whatever the reason, your job isn't to pick favorites. Your job is to analyze the players as they go along. Guys, there's a bunch of old games from the 80s and 90s on YouTube. Watch them. Just for the broadcasting alone. It's unbelievable. I don't care if you're a Buccaneer fan when they were going 2-14 in 86, or you were a friggin' Giants fan who went 14-2 in 86. You listen to the broadcasters, and they gave your team hope. Oh, the future looks really good if I'm a Buccaneer fan. They're going to have the first-round pick, and Vinny Tesaverde's coming up. We can get him. Oh, this guy, James Wilder's really, really good. He's one of the elite running backs in the league. At least I have that to look forward to. Please tell me, if you're a Cleveland Brown fan, who did they prop up last year? No one. Not even Terrell Pryor. They talked about Terrell Pryor. Oh, this kid having a great year, but I just don't think he has the ability to continue it through his career. How many times did we hear that through the course of last year? No, unless your name was Antonio Brown, you weren't talked about as a wide receiver in the AFC North. That's my point. I'm something different. I'm one of hundreds. I did this show because I am so flippin' tired of hearing about Jared Goff being a bust. As I read you, he outperformed Troy Aikman in two categories, completion percentage and sack totals. He did it with higher sack numbers in fewer games. He equaled him in touchdown to interception ratio. And in 5 fewer games, he was only 43 completions off. So I would have to say that's outperforming him as well. Yardage, dinosauric style offense, he didn't have an option. Now, I'm going to end this show with my preseason picks. I'm just going to give you my preseason Super Bowl prediction and my preseason bold prediction. In 1971, the Miami Dolphins lost to the Dallas Cowboys 24-3 in Super Bowl VI. Miami wasn't supposed to be there. They surprised everyone with a strong 71 season. And many people had the defending world champion Baltimore Colts picked to go back to the Super Bowl. God knows they couldn't play as poorly in Super Bowl V as they did and yet still won. So a lot of people were anticipating a Dallas Cowboy-Baltimore Colt rematch. The Miami Dolphins stonewalled Baltimore Colts in the AFC Championship game. I believe the score was 21-0 to go on to the Super Bowl. Don Shula later said, I feel like that 71 team played so far above its ability that it made us get there a year earlier than we were ready for. We didn't know what to expect as a team in the Super Bowl. I did, but they didn't. After the conclusion of the game, Don Shula looked around the room and saw tears, devastation. And he told the Miami Dolphin players, after he gathered them around, he said, remember this feeling of defeat, because you will not experience this feeling again next year. We are going to come to work, and we are going to prepare to win the Super Bowl. That year, the Miami Dolphins went 17-0 and won the Super Bowl. Now, Buffalo Bills lost a devastating Super Bowl in Super Bowl 25 to the New York Giants, 2019, Norwood's wide right. But we all know Buffalo in 91 not only went back, but they were the number one seed in the AFC and got to the Super Bowl. Conversely, the Washington Redskins, defending world champions, 14-2, lost what I call the blackout game. I call it the blackout game because the silver and black absolutely shut down the Washington Redskins. 38-9 in Super Bowl 18. Absolutely devastated Washington in every facet of the game. And the Redskins never recovered. 84, they barely made the playoffs by winning Week 16 against St. Louis to get in. They lost to Chicago. They didn't make the playoffs in 85. 86, they got back. They started kind of feeling the roads. But you could tell between losing Theismann, between losing Riggins, between losing the Super Bowl, they were a team in transition. Now, 87, between the strike-shortened season and I believe Joe Gibbs and Darryl Green, that's the reason the Washington Redskins won Super Bowl 22 over Denver. But really, Washington doesn't return. I know they made it to the playoffs in 86 and 87. And I know they won a Super Bowl in 87. But in my opinion, you don't really see the Redskins return to form until 1990. And then, of course, 91 was the greatest Redskin team of all time. They went 14-2, same record as they had in 83, but this time won the Super Bowl. I say these stories because when you lose a Super Bowl like the Falcons did, you can either go the way of the Dolphins and Bills, or you can go the way of the Washington Redskins. I believe the Atlanta Falcons will do the way of the Miami Dolphins and Buffalo Bills. Not only do I expect the Falcons to get back to the Super Bowl this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Green Bay Packers-Atlanta Falcons championship game, but I think the Falcons are going to win the Super Bowl, and I think they're going to beat the Oakland Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to be the team to come out of the AFC. That's my preseason prediction. Subject to change, obviously, because once preseason starts, you have injuries, you have roster, guys that are on the roster that, were undrafted that turn out to be these incredible athletes. You're like, oh, this guy really adds a dynamic aspect to this offense or defense. And plus, you get the feel for it. September will be a telltale sign if you're a Falcon fan. If they go 3-0, book the Falcons in the Super Bowl, they're probably going to win it. If they go 2-1, they have a good chance at it, but I need to see what October looks like. If they go 0-3, 1-2, it's going to be a long year in Atlanta, in hot Atlanta. It's going to be a long year. So we'll kind of wait and see. But if you were to ask me right now what's my preseason Super Bowl pick, I got the Atlanta Falcons over the Oakland Raiders. Raiders, for obvious reasons, they're the team on the incline, and they seem to be making the right moves every step of the way. And I just don't think Tom Brady at 41 years old is going to keep this up. I think the Patriots will get to the championship game, and that's where I think they're going to lose. And that will be, their 19th straight AFC championship game appearance. So kudos to them. That's a hell of an accomplishment. My bold prediction are these boys. My bold prediction is the Los Angeles Rams will be in the playoffs in 2017 in McVay's first season. We have things no one's talking about. We have Tyler Higbee, who no one is going to see coming, unless you're a Ram fan and you've been following him. Todd Gurley's going to be infinitely better this year than he was a year ago. Jared Goff is not the bust everyone talked about. I just spent a whole show on that. Nelson Spruce is going to be in the lineup and back. Farrell Cooper is going to be a part of this offense. Robert Brooks is, I think it's Robert Brooks. I keep screwing him up. So if I did it again, forgive me. I think it's Robert Brooks. Robert Brooks is a big increase or upgrade from Kenny Britt as far as the drop department goes. Tavon Austin's still Tavon Austin, but now it's no longer Tavon Austin and Kenny Britt. We have a lot more options on the table. I'm not ruling out Gerald Everett, the tight end that we picked up from South Alabama, but I need to see it. I was excited about Higbee, but I needed to see it. And then I saw it, and I got excited. It could very well be Higbee and Gerald Everett in a two tight end offense that's going to be dominating the NFL for a long time. That would be awesome, but I need to see it. Defensively, I think the Wade Phillips signing has been the most under-the-radar signing. It got a lot of publicity when it first happened, and then everybody's kind of forgotten about it. You move Robert Quinn to a pass-rushing outside linebacker position. You have Aaron Donald at nose tackle, and yes, I believe Aaron Donald will be in the lineup come week 1, and yes, I believe they'll get a contract thing situated. And as I said before, while I understood the franchise tagging of Trumaine Johnson, I said, if you remember, I think it was episode 33 or 34, whenever the first off-season one was, keep TJ McDonald, get rid of Trumaine Johnson. They got rid of TJ McDonald, they kept Trumaine Johnson. Now we're not going to have either in 2018, but I digress. This is 2017. Barring an injury, barring a tremendous setback, barring that Todd Gurley is really not as good as we all thought he was, which is doubtful, there's nothing stopping the Rams. Seattle's a year older. They haven't gotten better. San Francisco hasn't gotten better. In my opinion, they got one of the worst big game offensive coordinators to ever live, because not running the ball in the Super Bowl when you were up by 12 points or whatever the hell it was one of the worst exhibitions of coaching in the fourth quarter I've ever seen from a coordinator in my life that was that highly projected. Never seen it before. That loss is solely on the shoulders of the OC. I know I've coached in that role. I've been an OC and a DC, and I know what you need to do to win football games. And Kyle Shanahan, I think it is. Yeah, Kyle Shanahan didn't do any of it. I don't think the Niners are better. The Cardinals are old. They're just old. And I don't think that all of a sudden Carson Palmer is going to have a resurgence this year and the Cardinals are going to be wonderful. I think the Cardinals are going to be just as bad as they were a year ago, probably a little worse because they're a little older. They don't have the defense anymore that they used to have. A lot of those guys have split. And you got to worry if you're a Cardinal fan about the Honey Badger's knees. They're all torn up. You got Peterson, and that's it. So I think this is going to be the Rams' year. If they don't win the division, I certainly think they're going to win a wild card spot. But that's my bold prediction. But I do want to throw this caveat out there. All of this is hypothetical. This is my preseason pick. I'll give you my legit picks and more, not just Super Bowl predictions, but division winners, wild card breakdown, Super Bowl, bold predictions. There'll be more than one. The week before week 1, kicking off the season, the final preseason game, is when I'm going to give those predictions. If you followed me last year, you know my track record was, well, it wasn't good. I need a year to redeem myself for sure. So we'll do that. And we will cover more teams this year. That's one of my goals. So, guys, comment, if you're not just a Ram fan, comment what other teams you like that aren't getting coverage. I'd like to give you a little bit of love, too, because as a Ram fan, I know what that's like. And we're in friggin' LA for crying out loud, and we still don't get the coverage. So, real quick before you go, it's LT. That's the kid's name that does the Combat Sports Talk Los Angeles. That's, I think, a little bit better of a show than me, more comprehensive of all of LA, where I'm just pretty much football-based. I know he's trying to get more subscribers, so you might want to give him a look if you're an overall LA fan. And like I said, there are people out there that are doing it. It's not just the media, so I'm one of a lot, and he's a good example of that. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week's episode will cover week 1 of the preseason. Not much to cover. We'll kind of talk about what games are coming up. We'll talk about guys that I thought impressed in the preseason game. Hopefully they'll stick to the roster. But bottom line is next week's a celebration because football is back, and so is LA Rams Central on a weekly basis. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next week.